Hey, Athen. Oh, I see something. Oh, I see your live stream starting, but I only see your placeholder.
Alrighty, hey everyone. Welcome back to the weekly live stream. We have a very special guest here, Dr. Danny. Many of you know who she is in the community, and she's on the live stream. So we'll be able to answer any of your questions if you have any. So Dr. Danny is a licensed doctor, and she does work with astrology. So let's go ahead and introduce her. Dr. Danny, thanks so much for joining. It's great to be here, and I know you're a big part of the True Sidereal community, so I know many of us are very happy for you to be here, but thanks for being on.
Hi, thank you. Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you so much, Athen, for inviting me to come and talk with you and your community. As you know, and as we've talked before, you were my light in the dark for many, many years when I discovered that, astrology wasn't actually looking at the sky, at least the mainstream or legacy astrology. And to find your work and to follow what you've done and to learn from you over the years has just really enhanced my life. So I'm thrilled to be here. I can answer any questions you have about what I do, how I do it, as well as any of your community that has questions.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, and I'm super excited because, first of all, you're a really large part of this community, but we don't get too many actual doctors and people in the professional world utilizing this stuff. So it's extremely exciting to me to have a licensed doctor who's actually working with astrology, and even better, true sidereal astrology. So for me, it's a really big deal. But can you tell us a little bit more about what you do? So I know you're a licensed doctor. I know you work with true sidereal. What's the sort of link there? Because I know there's, I don't know, is it, you're not allowed to use astrology directly with your patients? Is that something that's in the medical code, or how does that work?
Well, so I am an obstetrician gynecologist. So I did the 4 years of medical school. I did the 4 years of residency training afterwards. And then I began clinical practice in 2012. And I moved here to Texas, and I just started seeing patients day after day after day after day. And what's so beautiful about what I do is I get their birth date, time, and location just like that. I'm also able to notice, because medicine is energy, right? And people have a lot of energy around them. And so I'm able to notice the ebbs and flows of acuity, volume, severity, that kind of thing. And over the years, I've been able to correlate that with astrological cycles. I mean, as much as I resisted it, because, I'm very much a skeptic and a scientist. I have two published research papers regarding the medical science around reproductive medicine. And, for me, it was just stunning. Mercury retrograde is a perfect example. Anytime we had a Mercury retrograde, orders would get misinterpreted. Patient acuity levels would just out of nowhere, be awful. So I said, all right, I'm going to study this, And so I got really excited because I also do have an astronomy background. I love to look at the stars. My dad and I would always go outside and look up at the telescope, and he would point out the constellations to me. Things like that. So I was excited to really connect that science of astronomy to these energies, like what was going on. And I realized very acutely on a birthday of mine, I pointed the night sky app up to the sun, and I was really expecting to see it in the constellation of Leo. Turned out it was Cancer. So I picked up my iPad, and I was like, is this thing broken? What's going on here? I checked the year, everything like that. And then I realized it was incorrect, and I started going down the rabbit hole. It was literally astrology doesn't use the sky? What? And I found you, and I found Ike Rodriguez of Sidereal Revolution, and I dove into your work and learned so much, and then went through my own sort of embodiment process through artistic expression. Through COVID, I just turned off my social media. I just went to work, and then when I came home, I would dive in and study and express and create these little Organite pyramids that my community, I show them to them all the time. This is the Aries Mars one. So after doing that, it just felt like there was this alchemy that happened inside of me. So as I would go to work and work with people, I began to notice subtle things about them. And I wouldn't necessarily say it was connected to the astrology. It was more of a compassion that sort of welled up inside of me, understanding these archetypes. So for example, when a patient would come in, I would, those archetypes would flash through my brain, whether or not they were associated with planets or constellations. And I could feel them. I could feel what was going on with them. And as a result of that, it just made me a better doctor, a better wife, a better human. So I think astrology works through me as a healer in my work. But I also do notice still those amazing coincidences with planetary energy and the volume and acuity of patient problems. So
Yeah. So it seems like you usually most of the astrology through you, as you said, but it's like you're using the astrology to help be a doctor, to assist yourself being a doctor, right?
to be a better human, yeah.
Right. Not so much using their charts or anything like that. It's not like you're going into the patient room and pulling out their birth chart or anything like that,
Oh, no.
obviously, right? So,
No, despite, excuse me, despite what you think, we are very much owned by government entities and corporate entities, and it's very hard to stray from the mainstream.
right.
I've always been someone who's like, why do we do things the way we do them? And a lot of things in medicine don't make sense. There's, alternative healing, complementary healing that I'm very much a fan of. I think that people, when they take sort of autonomy and control over their own body, their own wellness, what they put in their body, their emotional wellness too, all of that combined can make you a healthier person. And as a physician, you see one person at a time and you repeat yourself every time. And your day is sliced up into 10-minute increments. So in an hour, you get to see 8 patients and you get to say the same thing over and over and over. And I always wanted to break out into social media. And what was so cool about astrology is that everybody loves it. It resonates with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought maybe if I could combine sort of the emotional healing techniques coming from someone who's, done the work, studied the human body, studied the human psyche, that if I said something once to thousands of people, that it might have a bigger and broader impact.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's awesome because you do get to share obviously your medical perspective on social media with your YouTube channel, things like that, right? So you get to educate. So you do get to educate about medicine through a sort of astrological lens then. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
You're able to do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because really, like when it comes down to it, when someone comes into your clinic and they sit down in front of you and they're suffering, because they're at the end of their rope. By the time you have a physical symptom,
Mm-hmm.
you've already, the emotional stuff, the thought forms, everything, it's already done a number on your body. And so people aren't even educated on how to eat well. They're not educated on, how to take care of themselves. And when you get down into it, if you had the time to sit with a patient and really talk to them about their life and what they do, you would find that there's habits, there's emotional habits, there's thought form habits that directly affect their physicality. So yeah, astrology helps to bring the psychological and emotional part of it. And I get to drop in little lessons, little zingers, I call them, like one of my favorite sayings is, I don't know and I don't care. Because if you can say that for a lot of the things that go on in your life, it all works out anyway.
Yeah.
So you spend less time with anxiety, worrying about the future, what's to come, how am I going to deal with this, and a lot less time with regrets and guilt and, did I say that right? Did I do the right thing? You spend a lot less time doing that, more time creating and focusing on making your life better. And as a consequence, everyone else around you.
Yeah, that's a really good philosophy. And that reminds me a lot of like what we have going on right now with the eclipses. We were talking about the eclipses too. And so, before this call, but this Pisces Virgo axes, right, with the north and south nodes right now. And, I've been talking a lot about this idea of like, focusing on control, on what we do have control over, and then letting go of what we don't have control over. And I would imagine so much in medicine, obviously, it's like all these challenges, the most challenging things in life, we really are tested in that area of non-control, of like letting go of control. But at the same time, focusing on control. So like the diet, the routines, the habits, the health of Virgo stuff, right? We do have control over that stuff. But it's a balance, right? Between the control and non-control, between the doing and being, the physical and the spiritual health, with this axis. Well, that's really cool. So in terms of, your practice then, so, you're using like, say, the collective energies, right? Like the Mercury retrograde. So, you're coming into there and you're like, okay, Mercury's retrograde right now, kind of like we were just now. So by the way, Dr. Danny can't see me, everyone. So she's just responding to a voice right now because I couldn't get the video. But it's like we're adapting, right? So we know to adapt right now because it's the retrogrades. And so I'd imagine as a doctor, then you're going in there and, these things, like right now is the retrograde period. So that's obviously assisting you in knowing that, hey, maybe right now is a good time to maybe try different things, or, maybe it's favoring more of the experimental stuff in terms of trying different, I don't know, routines or habits or something for someone. So you're taking some of that in, not obviously as a diagnosis, but as a way to help you do your job better, and be more in alignment with the sort of current energy.
And also to deal with, the bad things that happen, right? Because as healers, I know some of you that are listening are energy healers, and you talk to people and you go deep with them and you really hear their wounding, you feel it. And the same thing happens with trauma. Like just about a month ago, I was called to an obstetrical trauma. This patient was in a very severe accident and she was about 7 months pregnant. And I had to make an emergency call. Like, there's about 15 people all swarming all around me. And I have to detach myself from that. And the ability to do that is actually natally in my chart. So I have an ability to compartmentalize other people's wounds so that I can act quickly, act decisively, and very guided as well. Because when you're in that zone, doesn't something guide you no matter what you're doing? When you're like in that moment and there's no time and everything is right now, that's what happens in those moments. Yeah. And it allows me to put that stuff over here for that moment. But what I've also come to find is that you can't completely compartmentalize that. There is, a wounding that happens to the healers as well. And astrology has helped me personally deal with a lot of that in a big way.
Yeah. So your natal chart obviously is huge in terms of knowing your strengths, your weaknesses, how to work with your abilities in the best way possible. Yeah, that's awesome. Do you, I don't know if you can say this, do you get to like actually, do you have any clients or any patients that actually like also do also get an astrology reading? Like, so they happen to be your patient in the medical fence and they also know you're into astrology and they ask you for a reading or something?
Yeah. There were a rare few. About a year ago, I switched what I do very drastically. Jupiter was crossing my ascendant, so it just made sense. It was right in the middle of that great American total solar eclipse. I left my clinical practice where I have the office, and I took a job at the hospital where I just do shifts. So I do about 7 24-hour shifts a month. The rest of the time I can focus on creating content and reading charts and building my school and doing all those wonderful things. So I don't have a lot of patients that I have that are my own anymore. But before I left, I did have a select few that found me at the local community mystic fair, where I would go and throw some tarot cards or check out their chart and try to convert them to constellational astrology. So they would walk up to my table and they'd be like, "Did you deliver my baby?"
Oh, wow.
So that was pretty fun because, obviously if they're at the mystic fair, they're open to it. And as I got more confident in my skills, I was able to discuss it more with my patients because you do develop a personal relationship with some of them, especially the repeat offenders, that are on their third or fourth baby. They'll come in and they'll ask me how I'm doing, or they'll say, "Well, what are you doing?" And I'll say, "Well, I just started a YouTube channel." And they'll be like, "Oh, let me see, where is it?" So yes, I have a few patients that got my services. And so that really taught me early as well, whenever I do a reading, to make sure to have the disclaimer that anything that you hear is not medical advice. Yeah. And I think everybody should do that as energy healers, whether you have certifications or not, if you're doing a reading. Yeah. Make sure they understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. Very important there. Financial, people ask me to do, crypto forecasts and trading forecasts and stuff. I always got to say, not financial advice, but in my readings too and all that. Yeah, very important. because it's this is obviously we're dealing more with the non-tangible, the non-physical, the more abstract world, and astrology is definitely not something that is meant to substitute any kind of physical, practical, left side of the brain, Gemini kind of stuff, So we'll go through some of these questions. I see some really good questions for you. Before we do, I just want actually, let's go through this and then I'll ask those, maybe my question will come up here. All right. So anyways, very positive feedback. It's great to see everyone. Great to have you all here. The Seeker says you look extremely healthy, which is always important, right? You want your doctor to be healthy, right, guys? All right, so let's see.
Small, frequent meals. That's what you do.
Is that what it is? Yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least for me.
So
also, guys, one of the things you can do, I know there's probably a lot of women in here, as you approach your late 40s and early 50s, you may develop intolerances to certain kinds of foods, like gluten or dairy. So, and this is really good sound medical advice. If you start to have processes of inflammation, what you can do is do sort of a singular elimination of those certain foods, like take out sugars, take out gluten, and take out dairy, and see if you feel better, if you start to lose weight. Because I tell you, some of the foods that are out there, we just don't know enough about them. There's also apps you can use to scan your food to tell you if it's healthy. It'll give you a grade like 1 to 10. 10's really good. You should buy that product. And you'd be surprised what you think is healthy actually isn't. So just a little advice there. And also take your vitamins. Yeah,
thank you. I'm the guy at the grocery store, like reading the ingredients label like it's a book, like I'm at the library. Basically, I do most of my reading at the grocery store than anywhere else, just because they just put so much stuff in there, and you have to read all the ingredients just to know, because there could be one bad thing in there, like you said, an intolerance or something, or just some of these really bad processed or additives or chemicals that they're just straight up putting in there now, and you really do got to check. I think it's extremely important. AA says, Hola, can you tell me something about Ophiuchus midheaven? So do you have anything to comment, Dr. Danny, about Ophiuchus midheavens?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I live with one.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. My husband has Ophiuchus in his 10th house. And I can tell you that this is someone who's a spiritual leader, like a confidant. Kind of like your priest, but way more personal. This person's going to challenge every belief that you have. Make sure that you stand in your own authority and your own authenticity. But at the same time, will sing your praises and show you how amazing you are. So congratulations for that, Ophiuchus in the midheaven, because you're somebody that is a spiritual leader, but lifts everyone up around them. It can be a dark road, though, because Ophiuchus isn't just, this bright side. There's an initiatory energy of Ophiuchus. And if you really claim that mantle, what you're going to have to go through internally may be very difficult. So you might be facing your own demons, your own vulnerability, how you feel about being in the spotlight, things like that. So
it's both a personal way of going about productive life or public life, and at the same time it's also how we can externalize that, how we can do more of that in our productive life, right? So midheaven and Ophiuchus, it's like, really good for healers and doctors and things like this, as they might say traditionally, traditionally they would say Scorpio, but we could say definitely more so Ophiuchus is, those types of professions and stuff, but also that you have to go through that inner healing and inner process in order to do that stuff, right? And that's very much what you were talking about earlier too, having the personal, the personal piece is part of the productive piece. And especially as a doctor, it's like you're dealing with your wounds in order to, like the story of Chiron, the wounded healer. It's like you have to heal your own wounds, or at least be in the process of healing them and aware of them in order to really be, a healer. So it's really both ways there, right? The internal, external ways of dealing with that midheaven Ophiuchus.
Yep.
Yeah. Karmic Kerfuffle says, "Hi, Dr. Danny. I'm wondering about your connection to Egypt since you have many pyramids on your bookshelf." So those are I don't know, are they linked to Egypt? That's a good question.
They are not linked to Egypt. They are what we call organite, and it's resin. And you take a mold and you pour the resin in, but you do it in layers. And this is my Uranus pyramid. And these are my little works of art. I love them. My husband and I created these planets. It's got copper in it. It's got tin in it. It's got aquamarine. Then on the bottom, we have a little sigil there for energy. But these crystals inside of here, if you can see that, are wrapped. Mm-hmm. And what happens when the resin cures is it squeezes these quartz crystals with this magnet or this conductive wire, and it generates a field around it. And it's really interesting because I've taken these pyramids and I have junk resin where I don't use it with the crystals. And I've put that in over water and froze it. And then I've taken a pyramid stuffed with these crystals wrapped in, put some water near that and froze that. I have two separate, well, at the time, don't even ask why, but we had two separate refrigerators in the garage with two separate freezers. And we put the placebo water, frozen water pyramid in one, and the lit up organite water frozen in the other one. And when we opened the freezers the next morning, there was this vortex under the organite pyramid. And in the placebo freezer, there was a vortex pointing towards the organite freezer. So it affected the entire field around it such that the water was magnet or some sort of energetic pulling towards the other pyramid. It was amazing.
Wow. And that's what they're supposed to do, right? They're supposed to purify. Is that right? Like purify, or is it to change the frequency of the energy around them? Why would one have, so it's good to have them around you because it purifies the energy. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah. So I took up the practice of focusing an intention into the crystal. So before I would even build the pyramid, I would cleanse the crystals and then play a frequency associated with the planet, for example, just for a little while. Let that crystal sort of resonate with that sound vibration. And then as I was building it before the crystals cured, I would play, some kind of frequency associated with that. And the other crystals pick it up too, not just the quartz. So like the aquamarine, the metal, the resin, we're just all sort of absorbing this frequency as we build the pyramid. And so what it was, as I was building it, it was like a journey through the archetype. But then also once it's done, I reckon this would be a cool thing to have near you if you wanted to study Uranus. So when I did my Uranus class back in, I think it was November. No, it was October. When we did the live for it, I sat the Uranus pyramid right here. I was like, okay, bring me your wisdom, bring me your energy. And that's how I use them.
That's awesome. So it's holding the frequency of, in this case, the planets, because you're designing them around the planets or signs. You have the planet Uranus.
I have ones for the sign too. The signs are tetrahedrons. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So this is Aries, and it's got iron in it and carnelian. And let's see. And then on the bottom, I put the constellation. So
these are things that are associated with Aries to give the frequency and energy of Aries. And then while you're making them, you said there's the sound. You're doing the sound waves of like Uranus's frequency while you're making it. So all that's getting sort of absorbed in there in the pyramid or the tetrahedron. And then it's there in
my brain.
And right. And as the creator. Yeah. And then so it's there to help you connect. Would you say it's there to help you connect to that energy? So if I, as an astrologer, maybe wanted to connect to Uranus in a particular reading or just at that moment of time, it would be good to have this next to me and like connect to it and work with astrology with that around me. Is that kind of a thing?
I guess so. I guess that's what you would call practical magic. Because the reality, after going through all of these pyramids, and I think I've made over 70 of them, and I don't do it anymore, is that I don't really need it, right? It's what tin represents or what copper represents is my externalization of that power that I already have as a magician. So in magic, what you do is you disconnect your thinking brain from what you're doing. Like, okay, I have to wrap this crystal or whatever. You you turn that off and you just let the frequency go into the brain because there's a part of you that senses this, that doesn't have to rationalize it or understand it. And that's truly where your subconscious desires come from. It's where you create your thought forms. It's the seed of all your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So so yeah, I used to walk around with tourmaline in my pocket during COVID because I thought that would protect me,
Mm.
and then I would wash my clothes and I'd destroy the tourmaline, and then I was crying because I lost my crystal, and I was like, this is so stupid. I can protect myself with
Mm.
my own energy.
Mm-hmm. And so it helps you do that, helps you strengthen your own energy then, I would
Mm-hmm.
say. Kind of like a continuation, like a loop, kind of reaffirming that energy. Of course, you already have it, you don't need it, but it can be there to kind of
Right.
emphasize it.
It can definitely be something that you use.
That's awesome. That reminds me of medicine, right? It's like you want to be healthier and stronger. You know, you can fast, but there's also foods out there that are supporting and strengthening, your health. So Aquarius Sky Clock says, have you come across Rudolf Steiner's lectures to physicians, which was GA 312 to 319? I don't know what GA is, maybe Georgia. But I'll just simplify the question. Are you into Rudolf Steiner at all? Have you read any of his work?
I have not read any Rudolf Steiner.
Okay. So he's, he didn't explicitly say he was using true sidereal, but it's pretty apparent that he was using the actual constellations with astrology. So, check out Rudolf Steiner. I need to do more Rudolf Steiner. It's very difficult reading. I'm sure you would do just fine with it, but for me, it's like really, really deep. But he's got some amazing work out there. I think my favorite with Rudolf Steiner is I can't remember what it was. Maybe Aquarius Sky Clock. Maybe you can tell me what it was called. But it was the one where he talks about Lucifer and Ahriman. So I think that's Rudolph's greatest contribution, is this idea that we have these dual forces in life. So it's like the yin and yang kind of dual forces, but it's maybe a more vertical one, where yin and yang is more of like the positive and negative polarities, where what he calls Lucifer and Ahriman would be like the more either expanding or contracting energies, or rising or lowering energies. So kind of another kind of polarity there in terms of this matrix. But Rudolf Steiner is really cool. Definitely check him out, Dr. Danny. But if you do, maybe we'll bring that topic back up next time. But thank you, Aquarius Sky Clock.
Thank you.
Let's see, Mystic Media. Paracelsus. The ancient alchemist maintained that when we are in harmony with our birth chart, we are healthy, and when not in harmony, diseased. So I don't know, Paracelsus?
Yeah, I think it's Paracelsus.
Paracelsus. Okay. So any comments on that? On living in alignment with your birth chart for health, right?
I 100% agree. And, it brings up the question of, fate versus free will, right? Like, okay, I have this code, and if I live by it, then code meaning astrology chart, then there's abundant blessings, and I live my highest path, and the journey to source is, much less difficult, things like that. Or if I play the karmic games that are also available in my chart, like the problem reaction solution, maybe of an 8th house Saturn or Scorpio Saturn. You could play into that, have a lot of experiences through that, learn through that. But then when you find out that that's what you do and you have that awareness, then you start following your path anyway.
Right.
So it's super interesting. I think that the free will is more, at least here in this dense, very dense place we live in, I think that the free will comes from how we choose to react to things. And that the real free will is before we're actually incarnated. So like when you say, okay, I'm going to individuate, I'm going to know source by separation and I'm going to come down here and be a human, that was a choice you made. And you also get to pick your chart. So there is a theory that you unconsciously have chosen your chart placements. So therefore, you chose it, so why not live it? Why not play the game that you chose to play instead of fighting it?
That's
Just
awesome.
brings up that for me.
Very well
Yeah.
said, yeah. The Seeker, I did recently see something about the signs being related to parts of the body. Have you found that to be true? So, yeah, that's a great question for Dr. Denny. So, first of all, do you use the traditional associations and how do you find them to be accurate?
Well, I have taken 3 courses with Judith Hill. She is a tropical astrologer. She has studied, she knows all about herbal medicine, and she's very well studied, autodidactic on the human body and physiology. So she's one of those rare people that has, a breadth and depth of knowledge in many, many silos. So she brings that to the table. And then she's also got a very analytical and practical approach to astrology. And what I have found is that she says the signs are not related to the skies, you guys. And it doesn't even matter. It's the houses. So she barely uses the constellation or the signs in her work. She does it so that, she has a language, excuse me, to speak with her students. But I think it comes from that there's some kind of polarity energy that happens in the sky. And I think it's not related to the constellations. I think it has a lot to do with the houses. I don't have any theories on that. She usually practices Renaissance medical astrology, and that was based on tropical. But again, that was, 400 years ago. So it may have been just a little bit closer to the actual constellations as well. And one thing she stresses is that even though, you read all these horrible things for, Pisces, for example, just because you have these placements doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have these illnesses. It's just a potential. So she makes that point very, very clear as well. But I have found a practical example in my practice that's very, very interesting. Asteroid Lilith, okay? Not Black Moon Lilith, but asteroid Lilith, the actual asteroid that transits in the asteroid belt, is associated with our intuitive hits through our body. So it's sort of a physical energy, but if you have the sensory capacity to tune into your body and notice where something hurts or where you get a nudge, like an intuitive nudge, I think that speaks volumes. So, for example, I have asteroid Lilith in Gemini, okay? Gemini, in my constellational Gemini. And Gemini is typically associated with arms, the fingers, talking, that kind of stuff. And when I am not following my intuitive guidance like I should, when I'm not listening in, when I haven't spent some time, with source, I call it God mode. When I'm not doing that on a regular basis, I start to get real tight. And I will wake up like I've been battling on the astral realm and I can't move my neck. But when I'm connecting and I'm, following my intuitive guidance, then I'm relaxed, I'm free, I'm easy, I can express, I can write, I can create. So I found that very interesting. And so I've done sort of an analysis with my clients. I'll say, okay, your asteroid Lilith is here. Here's what you might feel. So Virgo would be gut. Like you get sick when you're not listening to your intuition. You feel it in your gut. Now, obviously, I would tell these people, go to the doctor and get checked. Make sure you don't have any organic causes. But most of the time, you'll come back with no diagnosis and a pill for some symptoms. When in actuality, all you might need to do is sort of sit and tap in with your intuition, and that pain will ease. So Aries, head problems, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's very interesting.
That's awesome you use that. Yeah, I find them quite accurate too when someone comes with an ailment and you can identify it using the strength, like, oh, okay, this is, not in a very comfortable position, or you got some challenging planets in this particular sign. But that's a great point about the houses being, at least definitely the most important. And I definitely agree with that. And I think most, if when it comes to importance, I think all of us professional astrologers would agree that houses are obviously more personal and thus more important in a natal chart reading. But in terms of the medical stuff, yeah, I'll have look into that, but that seems very accurate too, that maybe we don't even need to really incorporate the signs too much there then, because it's really the houses that play such a personal role, such a unique role, in the natal chart just in general, right? Let's see. So, right, so that was the seeker. So Christine says, Grand day. I've been a Leo for many years. I first found Athen a few months ago with his podcast with Logan. Now I am trying to combine Leo Cancer natal charts. Any insights? Now I am trying to combine Leo Cancer natal charts. Do you mean that one of your charts, like the Leo is tropical and the Cancer is your sidereal, and you're trying to combine them? But anyways, what's your take on tropical and sidereal, Danny? Like, do you still find the tropical chart accurate at all? Is it helpful in medical?
I'm evolving with that. I will say that, finding out that I was actually a Cancer instead of a Leo, I went through what I coined tropical derangement syndrome. Like, I couldn't even listen to any other astrologers that would start talking about the signs. I just couldn't do it. I was like, don't even talk. But as I've, developed and gotten more confident in my own practice, I find their insights quite incredible. So I am much less dismissive of tropical astrology as a body of knowledge than I used to be. The medical astrology opened my eyes to that. So, and then also financial astrology is also based on just the planetary transits, not necessarily their sign, like angles and conjunctions and things like that. Again, it's a house kind of thing, and it's more of how the cycles react. So that's all still very real, depending on, no matter which system you use. And I've recently come up with a cool way to maybe get the people that study tropical interested in how we do it. Not in sort of an offensive way or an aggressive way, but maybe ask them, hey, do you know what your star sign is? Because our sun is a star. So you can have your sun sign in Leo and be Leo the lion and roar and be magnanimous and generous and beautiful and innocent and fantastic and full of yourself. Do it. But then you can also be a Cancer star, where you nurture and you hold space and you have deep truths and are compassionate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great way of saying it. And that's what I find too, is like the tropical chart. I see it as still accurate in the very physical sense, right? Because they're basically taking the zodiac and overlaying it on top of the seasons. And so I'm probably going to, ruffle a lot of feathers by saying that, tropical astrology maybe isn't really astrology in the sense that they're obviously using the houses, which is the sky, and they're using the planets, which is the sky. But when it comes to the seasonal, the signs itself, the zodiac system, it's like you're overlaying the wheel of life over the seasons. And so of course it's going to be accurate, and I do find that. It's just that the tropical chart is definitely what I call the more physical self, right? Being that it's like the 3D, the seasons, the spinning around the wheel of karma.
Well, I call it the karmic wheel or the karmic trap.
Yeah, it could be a trap too.
Yeah, because if you leave out Ophiuchus, if you leave out that energy of being able to sort of break the 12, 13 breaks 12. There's no more symmetry. There's no more repeating of the cycle. That the circle now becomes a spiral that moves upward and evolves because you've got that door in and out through Ophiuchus. So
yeah,
I think it misses that. And so I would love to tell people their star signs, show them Ophiuchus and how amazing it is.
Yeah, I totally agree. You need that 13. I mean, that's the breakaway. That's the transformation. That's the center of our galaxy, right? So if you're not using Ophiuchus, you're not really using the galaxy. Like, you're not using the whole system, right? Maybe stuck in the solar system only, because we are revolving around this galactic center, and that is, from our perspective, Ophiuchus, right? That's where the constellation is. All right, so that's all the questions that weren't too personal. So I some of you asked some, personal natal chart questions. Obviously, for this, we want it to be a little more collective and applicable to everybody. But I think I've gone through most of them. If I didn't get to your question, I really apologize. But It was great having you on, Dr. Danny. Anything
you so
you want to
much.
share? Can you
Oh my
share
gosh,
where
that's
people
great.
can find you, where they can connect to you?
Yeah. So you can check out my YouTube channel. It's my name, Dr. Danny, physician astrologer. I my presentations are not strictly astrology. Athen is very consistent. He gives you the goods and then he's done. I am more like, I had this amazing idea. Let me show you how this works. So I will often bring in the astrology readings with a creative idea, with a teaching, a spiritual teaching, with some numerology decodes. It's really just my creative and expressive outlet where I get to connect with all of you. So you can check out my channel there. I also have the Fellowship of 13 Signs on Facebook. Mostly I will post my videos there, any new classes that I'm doing. And then drdanny.com if you're interested in a reading or learning more about me. And then learn.drdanny.com for that. I can put the links in your chat too because I'm right here.
Oh, yeah, please do.
If that would be appropriate. Okay.
Yeah, that's appropriate. Cool. But it sounds like all your social media is on drdanny.com as well. So maybe that would be one-stop shop. drdanny.com. All those links are over there. But that's awesome. You're into the more personal side of things, more creative as well. What's your sun sign again? I forgot.
Leo sun, Cancer star.
Okay. So everyone, that's the difference between a Leo sun and a Capricorn sun. I'm always professional. I get it done, like whatever. Professional, cold, detached, but creative and expressive and fun is Dr. Danny. So definitely reach out to everybody. Any final comments before we go?
No, I'm just so grateful and really honored to be here with all of you. Like I said, Athen was a star in my life. And so for me to be here speaking with you, it's just a privilege and an honor, and I'm blessed. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Danny. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We'll see you next week at the usual time. Have a great week, everyone. Take care.
Bye.